If you're trying to lose fat and feel stuck, you're probably making at least one of these three mistakes. I used to make these as well, but when I changed my approach, that was when everything finally started to click. So in this video, I'll share what you need to do to finally see results once and for all. Mistake number one, not being aware of how many calories you are actually consuming. When I used to diet in the past, I would make these attempts to change the way that I was eating by making healthier meals. I would go and do these meal preps, or I would make chicken, rice, vegetables. I would take that to work with me, and I would try and make my lunches healthier, my breakfast healthier, but I would never really understand why when I was making those changes, I wasn't actually seeing any physical differences. And in reality, it came down to the fact that even though the food choices that I was making were better, I was not actually in a calorie deficit, and that's why I was not losing any weight and my body physically did not look any different, because it does not matter how healthy you eat if you pick better foods than what you were having before. If you are consuming too many calories, the number on the scales will not change and you won't lose fat, and that is just how it works. You can't work your way around that. So it's really important that you have an awareness of the amount of calories that you're actually consuming. And when I look back, there were so many things that I was doing. I used to go to the shops and I would buy a meal deal where I would get a wrap and I would buy myself this healthy smoothie that on the packet it looks like it's really good for you, but actually it was about 300 calories. I would get some nuts as a snack that would probably be another 250, 300 calories, and then a wrap or a sandwich as well. And I was easily knocking back 1,000 calories or more on something that I thought was healthy, I thought was good for me, but it wasn't that the choices that I was making were inherently bad in terms of whether they were healthy foods or not. It was just that the amount of calories that I was consuming was far too high for the goal that I had of seeing physical changes. So what you have to do instead is firstly have a target for the number of calories that you're going to consume and ensure that that target will put you in a calorie deficit. We can be in one of three positions, which is a deficit where we're losing weight, a maintenance level where our weight is staying the same, or a surplus where our weight is increasing. So if, for example, throughout a typical day with all of the movement that you do, the exercise that you do, and just by surviving as a whole, you burn 2,500 calories, that is just, a number I've plucked out of the air, then you need to be eating below that, for example, 2,000 calories to create that 500 calorie deficit if you want to be able to see your body weight coming down consistently. So it's really important that you have that target that's at the right level for you, and then once you've got that target, that you start to track your food every single day. And what that will do is it will help you build a level of awareness around how different food choices impact you from a calorie perspective, but also how they impact you from a macronutrient perspective, so you can understand how much protein is in certain food choices, how much carbs, how much fats. And the thing with tracking is it isn't there to catch you out, it isn't there to make you feel bad about eating certain things. The way I look at it with my clients is it's there to empower you to be able to make the best choices for you and to be able to make decisions that you feel are aligned with your goals. So if on a particular day you feel a little bit hungry, you want a chocolate bar, you're aware of how many calories are in that chocolate bar, but it's just up to you to decide if you feel like it's worth it or not. However, when you actually start tracking your calories, you're aware of how those different choices impact you, and you can make those choices that are aligned with that goal of your fat loss target, seeing those physical changes, rather than just shooting in the dark and trying to pick foods that you think are healthy, which is absolutely what I did, and end up in that position where the scales stand still and you don't see any physical changes. Mistake number two is eating well Monday to Friday and then completely blowing it on Saturday and Sunday. Now, this is something that I know a lot about because I used to do this all the time when I would be in my office job Monday to Friday. I would be making sure that I would be making good choices, not allowing myself to snack, not have anything sort of naughty throughout the course of the week. And then as soon as Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday came, I'd say, oh, well, it was the weekend. I've worked hard. I'm going to let myself relax. The weekends of having a bit of fun. And my diet would go literally completely out the window. I would not be watching what I would eat. I would be perhaps drinking alcohol, all those types of things. And the problem with that approach is when you are looking to lose fat, you need to be in that deficit that we've just discussed. However, consistency is really important. So for example, if that 2,000 target that we discussed is what you are consuming Monday to Friday, then on Saturday and Sunday you consume 3,000 calories. That means that across the course of the week you're consuming a whole extra day's worth of calories, an additional 2,000. And when you've got a goal of trying to lose fat and see your weight come down on the scales, if you're eating a whole extra day's worth of food, whether it's coming from food or whether it's coming from liquid calories such as alcohol, then that's going to put a serious dent in your ability to see results and really slow down the entire process. So that element of consistency and ensuring that you're not just someone that diets from Monday to Friday, you're actually in control on the weekends is really important as well. And I promise you, it wasn't until I actually broke that cycle and made sure that my diet on Saturday and Sunday was as good as it was Monday to Friday that things really started to change for me. The other thing that you really need to be aware of is the amount of calories that can come in alcoholic drinks, and that's something that I touched upon a moment ago. But for me, when I was in my early 20s and I was trying to lose fat, I had physique goals, my drinking was absolutely something that was probably the main barrier for me seeing the results that I wanted to see. And there are so many more calories in alcohol than I think we often realise. And when we go on a night out, you might be able to want to enjoy yourself, but there's certainly things you can do to reduce the amount of calories that you consume if you do want to incorporate some events, some nights out into your routine and still be able to lose fat. And the way that I would do that is I would be looking to avoid things such as beers, ciders, cocktails, which can, some cocktails can easily go from 200 to 300 calories. And if you're having 3 of those, which is very easily done alongside a few spirits as well, then before you know it, you've potentially consumed 1,000 or 1,200 or so calories just from alcohol alone. And then on top of that, you've got any additional food that you might eat on that day as well. And that's where your overall consumption can really go up quite significantly. So being aware of the calories in alcohol makes a massive difference. And what I would look to do in that situation is, if you are going to drink, I would look to introduce or look to change the drinks I'm having to things like spirits with low calorie or like 0 calorie mixers, for example, like a vodka diet coke, a gin slimline tonic. And whilst those things aren't going to be completely calorie free, they're going to be much better options for you than if you end up going for cocktails where the calories can quite easily ramp up throughout the course of the week, and that's going to put a significant dent in the amount of calories and bring up your total daily average that you're consuming. One other little hack that you can use that I also quite like and I recommend to my clients is, if you do have an event that perhaps involves alcohol, it involves maybe eating a little bit more than you usually would, is consider doing something called calorie banking. Now, what you do in this situation is, if you've got that target of 2,000 calories, every single day, Monday to Friday, you might drop your calories by 100. And then what you do is, when you get to that Saturday where you've got that event, you've then banked yourself an additional 500 calories that you can use to go out and enjoy yourself and not end up going over your average calorie goal. Now, this is a tactic that I would use sparingly. It's not something that I would look to do every single week. It sometimes can be quite difficult to stick with. However, if you've got an event where you really want to be able to enjoy yourself and you don't want to completely derail your progress, looking at calorie banking and giving yourself a little bit of extra wiggle room to be able to enjoy yourself is a really effective method you can use to stay consistent, go out, but still be able to lose fat as well. Mistake number 3, the final one, is going to the gym with no real plan. And this was again something that I used to do all the time. I would have these bursts of motivation. I knew that I wasn't happy with how I looked. I knew that I wanted to change. So I would go to the gym, no plan whatsoever about what I was going to be doing. I would just walk in and try and sort of think that I would get a level of inspiration when I arrived, which was never really the case. And all that would happen was that I would end up on the treadmill, I would end up on the cross trainer, or I would end up on the rowing machine. And none of those things I enjoyed. I did not enjoy cardio at all. It was not something that I liked doing. However, that was all that I felt that I knew what to do or how to do, so I naturally leaned into doing that. But the problem is with that approach is when we've got a goal that is centered around fat loss, we want to see a more defined and toned body, we need to be building muscle, okay? So that muscle that we build will be the foundation of our physique as we start to strip fat away. And that is importantly where we come into that big difference, which is fat loss versus just weight loss. So with weight loss, yes, we are going to be seeing the number on the scale come down. However, with fat loss as well, what we are aiming to do is, yes, we still want that number on the scale coming down. However, as that number comes down, we are also increasing our muscle mass at the same time, so that as we start to strip that fat away, we've got that definition there that we really want to see. And it's so important that when you are training, you've got a plan which is focused around strength training, resistance training, whether it's using machines, barbells and dumbbells, that you have that structure there and that you're not just guessing when you go into the gym. You need to follow a plan that is progressive. It gets harder with time, and that means having a form of program that you follow. And certainly from a confidence and a gym anxiety perspective as well, if you're just going into the gym and you're trying to wing it, you don't really know what you're going to be doing that day, it's going to be quite hard, it's going to be quite daunting. However, if you go in, you know what you're going to do that day, you know what exercises you're going to do, you've got a list of replacement exercises if things are busy, it's just going to give you that confidence that you're going in, you've got a plan, you know what to do, you've got a backup if it's busy, you know where to go, what the machines are, how they work. And it's going to mean staying compliant and staying consistent with that plan will be much, much easier. Now, if you are someone that wants to get into resistance training, but you don't really know how to design your workout, what exercises to do, head to the link in my description and download my free workout guide, where I have given you a complete layout of how to design your workout alongside a list of exercises and video demos that you can pick from to create your own workout that you will enjoy, that also works for you, so you can have that structure and consistency to your training. Now, you might have been like me, where you are making all three of these mistakes, or you might just be making one or two of them, but all three of these things are incredibly important if you want to build a physique that is toned, that is defined, where you can see that definition. So if you feel like one of these things are holding you back at the moment, take into account the tips that I've given you today, and I promise you that will get you to the next level with the fat loss and physique goals that you've got.